Good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to have us once again on our edition of You Tax and Development, the Inevitables. We started a conversation around discussing what is the content of the new tax acts that have been passed. And in our first edition, we mentioned a few snippets, which was more like a general overview. But we want to take it step by step now, discussing the contents of the laws themselves and defining and discussing what the implications are for education purposes, and also to point out areas where we might want to engage as a tool for fostering a better development or how the laws should work for the people. We will start with the Nigerian Tax Act 2025. Of course, you know that there are four of them: the Nigerian Tax Act, the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act, the Nigerian Tax Administration Act, and the Joint Revenue Board Act. These are the four laws that are referred to the acts, and they are all jointly going to be used in administration of the new dispensation of tax in Nigeria. So starting with the Nigeria Tax Act 2025, this act comprises of 9 chapters, 29 parts, and 203 sections. The act repealed 10 laws, amended 13, revoked one law, which is the Value Added Tax Act, amended one order and one regulation. So these mentioned acts, regulations, and orders, those sections that are affected, and in some cases where the entirety of the law was affected, the Nigerian Tax Act 2025 takes precedence over whatever that is contained in those affected sections and parts. Just a breakdown, the Chapter 1 of the Nigerian Tax Act has two sections. It contains the objectives and the application of the law itself. So telling us what the objective of the law and how it will be applied. The second chapter speaks about issues around all the income taxes, whether it's individual, whether it's company income tax, and yeah, all the income taxes that's contained in chapter 2, and it has 11 parts and 62 sections. Of course, it's the longest of the chapters in the act. Well, maybe because it also contains the most important aspect of the act when you consider the citizens and the audience that it addresses. The third chapter deals with taxation in the petroleum industry. It has 4 parts and 55 sections. Fourth chapter lays out the framework for double tax agreements and contracts. It only has one part with 4 sections. Chapter 5 is on taxation of debtable instruments, which has 3 parts and 16 sections. And chapter 6 is the home for the almighty value added tax. This is a chapter that's repealed an entire law, so it's, if you permit me, I would say it's a very, very important chapter, which also comes with new dimension for the administration of the value added tax in Nigeria. It has 2 parts and 15 sections. Chapter 7 lays out the pathways for administering surcharges with 1 part and 4 sections. Of course, you know, penalties. Don't speak too much grammar. Chapter 8 deals with tax incentives. It's broken down into 4 parts and 27 sections. It's also a very important chapter that we need to pay attention to, because that's where the issues around what will happen to our incentive regime if the odds or the pitfalls of the old dispensation have been taken care of. How are we intending to move forward with changes that would make our incentive regime work better for the country rather than becoming a drain pipe for the economy. The last chapter, which is chapter 9, is for general provisions to define some specific ambiguous mentions and concepts within the law. It has 14 sessions, just one part, and there are schedules that are listed within the Nigerian Tax Act. We just touch the objectives and applications of the Act. We will continue with other sessions in subsequent editions. So the Act's objective is to provide unified fiscal legislation governing taxation in Nigeria. So what it means is that this act is the one that determines whatever happens within tax administration in Nigeria. Any other law or any other provision within the law in any other place is subject to what is contained in this act, and that is the one and only objective of this act. Its application is throughout the Federation of Nigeria, so anybody anywhere belonging or having anything to do with the Federal Republic of Nigeria is bound by the provision of this act, and everyone is required to comply. The categories of persons that are bound by this law is the law divided it into three, and we have the personal income tax, which applies to individual and family according to this law. Yeah, that family concept came in very prominent within the law. We might just have to look deeper to understand the issues around family incomes and how that is going to be administered. Then the second is the company income taxes. The last is the income accrued from trusts and estates. These are the three broad categories that the law puts out for us. In our subsequent editions, we'll break down some of these categories and talk about specifically the item by item that was listed as taxable items from both individuals and companies in the Act. So thank you once again. It's been a pleasure having you listen to us on this edition. We look forward to interactions through our channels. You can comment, you can drop your questions, you can send in your observations through the email showing on the screen or also on this channel. You can send in recorded voice messages. It will be a good thing for us to see them and be able to provide responses where adequate and where necessary. From us, till we meet again in the next edition, bye and stay educated.